Buddha has shown how to increase their power and also how to subdue the force of those negative potentialities. The base is already there within ourselves in a very functionable way. However, we out of our ignorance and lack of the guidance, then we remain ignorant, and then it's just like, as we have this kind of example in the scripture, like extremely poor person with lots of difficulty sleeping on a gold mine. He does not know that he's actually just under his floor. If he digs a little bit, there is a gold mine, but he did not know. So therefore he has been sleeping always on this gold mine and remain all one's life very poor and with lots of difficulties. So a little bit like that, we have gold mines, like much more than gold mines, much more precious gold, within ourselves, in our own mind. But if we do not recognize that, then we can having those things and never ever using them, never ever training them, never ever using them, and then they remain like that. And then that way we suffer, we go through lots of problems, and we all our life, whole life we spend in complaining about the problems and struggling with the problems. But actually the potentialities, what one needs to overcome all the problems and all the cause of problems are within oneself. We are just born with it, and we just simply must recognize what they are, and then that what has to be weakened should be weakened, what has to be strengthened should be strengthened, what has to be brought to perfection, we just perfect them, and then the work is done. Voila, c'est comme ça. But that's not what we are doing. All these qualities, the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such as generosity and such as patience, such as the loving kindness, compassion, whatsoever, there are many of these great qualities. And these are, even though we have not reached to that level of such qualities, however, we are already endowed within ourselves the potentialities of all those. We have generosity within our mind, we have ethics in our mind, we have patience in our mind, we have compassion, loving kindness. All these things are there, potential state, and maybe in some, not only in potential state, maybe a little bit something is growing as well, like not only in a state of a seed, but also a little sprout. Maybe 2 small leaves are coming out of it. That also can happen. But most important thing is that we all are endowed with these seeds, these precious seeds. There's nothing new that we have to get from somewhere. There's nothing foreign. There's nothing new. Everything is most natural, most normal that we are born with, that are within ourselves. Buddha has not taught anything which is something that we have to, something non-existing in us that we have to get from somewhere. There isn't anything like that. All we are born with these very potentialities. And therefore it is always said the precious human existence. Because only in human existence these potentialities are in the most obvious, most functionable, and in a most manifest state. And that is our existence. So therefore we have all these natural potentialities. All what one is to do when one talks about dharma practice or meditation is nothing else than to recognize them what they are. These gold mines, we really recognize where they are and then dig them. So recognize where they are, and then we have to perfect them. We have to train them. When trained, they will immediately grow. If they are left untrained, they will never grow, and it will remain always in this seed state. Like the seed or grain, like barley, if you leave like that in the barn, then it will remain for long. Someday maybe some animals will eat or something, but nothing will grow. But you want to take care of them. Just put them into the ground and put a little bit of moisture, a little bit of water. Then in just few days, 2 small leaves will come out of it. Sprout will grow, and this is the natural process. The same thing also, there are a lot of things to grow in ourselves, but many things have grown and are growing, but mostly what has grown so far in our mind are the weeds. Buddha has taught, introduced ourselves to all those. Sometimes when I said there's nothing new that we have to, everything is in ourselves. One may say, there are still very many important things that we have to understand, like the emptiness, the shunyata, all those things. But shunyata or the emptiness is also nothing other than our own nature, our own mode of existence. That is shunyata. The famous emptiness is nothing else than our own mode of existence, which we also have. It is here, is it with ourselves, is in ourselves, on ourselves, around ourselves. We are wrapped in it, but still we don't know where it is. But it's right here, but we don't know. That kind of situation we are. We think we know ourselves, but actually we don't know ourselves at all. So therefore we are in this kind of strange situation. So therefore things like shunyata, emptiness, sounds or seems to be something very foreign, something very different, something way up or way down or somewhere, anyway, unreachable, something completely different, which is not at all the case. Shunyata or the emptiness is nothing else than our own mode of existence, it's our own nature. Once we have correctly understood, and that is the emptiness. While one is totally born with all these and living with all these, but still due to our fundamental ignorance, which I have mentioned before, and also various other obstacles in our mind, we are not able to be aware of what is really meaningful and beneficial, and instead we create a whole lot of projections which are not real, which does not exist, which is only simply projected by own mind everywhere, and that way we create a false reality all around ourselves, and we think this is the reality. This is me, this is others. Actually it's nothing to do with the reality of ourselves. It is a false reality that we have created within ourselves, outside ourselves. And in this kind of false reality we live. And as long as we live in that way, we never come to, even though it is right in us, with us, we will never encounter, we will never come to contact with the true reality. The situation is actually like this, that all these phenomena, that all that exists, all this, including oneself, we are existing, each and everything in our own difference and similarities and whatever, in such a way then all phenomena are existing with kind of interdependent relations, and that way that is our basis. And the reality of this is the inner essence or the reality of all these, including oneself. That is the emptiness. That is that famous emptiness we talk about. And this emptiness is the actual ultimate reality of all of us, everything, all including oneself, all existing, always, always. Whatever existing, anything whatever existing, its nature is that emptiness. And that way everything exists, that way everything functions. This is completely hidden at the moment due to our ignorance. So we have no, even though we are in ourselves, everywhere we are completely in it, inseparably with ourselves, but we are not at all aware of that. And then we have created this false reality. On each and every, on ourselves, we created false reality, on every object all around ourselves, everything that exists, we project on them a false reality. And this false reality, we take it for the actual reality. That way we approach them, that way we cling to them, that way we like them, that way we dislike them, etc., etc. And all that interrelations, all that thing, whatever we are doing with such a false reality, is all false. Every impression that one gets from the false reality is also false. On the basis of such impression, whatever we are thinking or doing, basis on such false reality also is false. So that way we create a whole chain of false realities, one after another, and that is what is called a samsaric existence. That has become, unfortunately, our reality, the samsaric reality. So this is all created by oneself. And even though the actual reality is right here, within oneself, but we are not able to recognize it, and because we have created this great barrier of this false reality. So therefore, we are only dealing with the false reality, this false projection, and never encounter the true reality at all. The point is that why I'm explaining this is clarify that for the enlightened one, the Buddha has, when he taught the Dharma and all the practices, there's nothing that Buddha is introducing to something completely new, something that we, as a practice of Dharma, what one actually requires is something completely new and something completely foreign to us, that we have to acquire somewhere, from somewhere. Then if one get it, then we have chance. If we don't get it, then we have no chance. Nothing like that. Buddha is just introducing ourselves to what is there already within ourselves. Everything is in there. All the practice of Dharma, whatever one requires, whatever one needs to recognize, whatever needs to be changed, what needs to be eliminated, what needs to be developed, increased, perfected, they are all within ourselves. Nowhere outside. Nowhere, anywhere outside. It's all within ourselves. So therefore one has to always has to work within. The Dhamma practice is work within and working with things within ourselves. So recognize things within oneself. There is the source of all suffering. There is also the source of infinite goodness. Is all within ourselves. So therefore even things like important topics of the Dharma like shunyata, emptiness, universal compassion, loving kindness, etc. There are many, many important points which sound so very impressive, and they are surely very impressive, but these are also nothing, something extraordinary existing somewhere unrelated to ourselves somewhere else. It's all within oneself. The seed potentialities for all that is within ourselves. The seed of Buddha is within ourselves. There is nowhere outside. So the best proof and the proof for the existence of enlightenment, existence of the Buddhas, existence of the Bodhisattvas ourselves. It is because we are the carrier of the seed of the Bodhisattva, potentialities. We are the cause of Bodhisattva. We are the cause of the Buddha. We are actually the very seed of the Buddha. Because of that, then one can also understand, generate the conviction also just as when one fully understood the nature of that grain of barley or that grain of maize, fully understood, then one have no doubt, no difficulty to understand also in the crop of the maize, the crop of barley. So we are therefore such kind of maize. So we are all seeds, like seeds of maize, seeds of barley, seeds of, but those people who do not like gluten, they don't like too much. To get gluten-free wheat or something, maybe it's not so good, but I think maize is still okay, no? Maize is also gluten-free, or it is with gluten?
Yes, I think it's gluten-free.
Yeah, but anyway, these cereals are so precious because that comes the main food for human. When one fully understands that potentiality of these cereals, then one can, on the basis of that, one can understand, one can accept also the crop that one may get in at the harvest time. And so in the same way, we are such seeds ourselves, and on the basis of that, one can also understand. When one has really understood fully what oneself is and what oneself possesses, then one can understand fully also what the Buddha attainment is. So that's all kind of linked together. There's nothing mysterious. There's nothing so extraordinary somewhere high up there. There's nothing like that. It's all right here. So from here it has to start. Everything has to start. So all these methods such as practice of meditation, these are nothing else than to perfect those qualities, such as quality of concentration, quality of remembrance, quality of intelligence or analysis, and quality of still many other things, faith, compassion. All these things are contained in ourselves in the form of potentiality. Our duty is to bring, just like on a seed also it needs regularly giving water and so on, then from the seed will come the sprout and all the stalk and everything, the whole plant, even a huge tree. So in the same way, we also recognize these seeds within ourselves and then to grow them. This process of growing, like process of watering and so on, that is actually what the meditations are for. And what all the precepts or practices that we follow are all nothing else than to help those seeds that are already in ourselves to grow infinitely. And one of the method factor is the practice of meditation. Meditation, this word means familiarization. All these potentialities grows only through familiarization. There's not any other miraculous method, only through familiarizing, through repeatedly familiarize ourselves with these whatever the object, whatever the state that one has to bring up in one's meditation. So we try it again and over, so that we familiarize more and more. At beginning, everything is a hard work, effortsome, but having familiarized continuously for a long time, everything what is effortsome becomes natural, spontaneous and effortless. That is the nature of the mind. Whatever one familiarizes then will become sooner or later, even sometimes quite soon, very effortless, very natural. That is the character of the mind. Our mind has this kind of character. The whole practice of meditation, there are many methods of meditation. Buddha has taught concentrative, analytical, in the small vehicle, great vehicle, Vajra vehicle. All the same, it's all a process of familiarization of our mind. Through that way, one's concentration will develop, one's analytical power will develop, and that's the only way to make progress. That is what one should also understand about the meditation. Bhavana means familiarization. That means one familiarizes again and again. There are different types of meditation. Some meditation is practice in which one's mind is focused upon a particular object. That way to meditate. Or sometimes the practice of meditation is practiced in such a way that one tries to bring one's mind in a very particular state and then try to maintain that state or generate that state and then maintain that state. That's one way of meditation also. There are the meditation in which then again a particular object is not only just focused upon but very thoroughly analyzed, classified, dissected quite precisely, that way taking apart everything and then really try to investigate, understand through dissecting also. That sometimes the practice of meditation is done in a such way that our subject mind then is the subject and then object, whatever that is, that it can be with or without form, and that way one's interaction between such a subject and object. There's one way, or sometimes one's mind itself takes the form of whatever the object is itself, taking completely the very form of that, completely integrating it. That way to meditate. There are different ways of meditating, different ways of kind of of dealing with practice, they are not all the same. Meditation is not only concentration, meditation is not only analyzing, investigation. They are depending on what one's practice is. So it is variegated. The methods of meditations are also variegated. There is fully enlightened one has taught very precise methods how to go about such practice of meditation. So it's for a true meditator, one has to also follow such methods correctly. Then it can also, having followed a correct practice of meditation, one may also expect a correct attainment of the result. Meditation is not at all, as is nowadays often understood, as a kind of state of just relaxation, because now everybody talks about stress and so on. Then everyone is so kind of looking very desperately for some method to help in this kind of stress. Everyone believes that that is meditation, and so everyone does something, but most of the time for the releasing the stress, for most of the time under that what one does mostly doing nothing and or relaxing or maybe sitting in a particular position, and then keeping the mind maybe blank or something is taken as a meditation, which is not meditation at all. It's just the opposite of meditation. And also we have now very, again, this false reality, false projection of stress also. We think now everybody talks of stress, and this stress has become inherently existing, some kind of new phenomena. And then everybody is somewhat frightened of, this is like frightened of a non-existing evil spirit. So like that, and everyone talks because they like to talk about this. Is almost like a trend, like a mode. Fashion is almost become fashion. You don't speak about the stress, then somewhat you do not fit into the society. Because everybody has to have stress. If somebody has no stress, then means no work. That means then you are good for nothing. Thanks to the stress, now meditation has become also very well integrated in the life of intelligent people, in the life of important people. There is introduction of meditation in the big companies. There is even meditation for the soldiers. There is meditation for the prisoners, meditation for the police. Everybody become meditator now. So I think soon we will have very important collective enlightenment. Universal enlightenment. So therefore meditation has become very popular, which is maybe it's good. Actually for like those who are in prison and really has to spend a hard time and so on, then introducing some practice like that, even if it is not anything very important, practice of meditation in the real sense, but even something which has a temporary benefit of calming the mind and so on, is something which is worth that way, helping those suffering people. But very often people also do meditation in order to be more efficient, to be a good soldier, or more efficient to be a good businessman, for which then one does the meditation. But then that is called meditation, but then it must be something else. But in the best sense, we understand in meditation to calming down the mind and relaxing the mind. That is, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if one's practice of meditation only to relax, to calm, only that is also not really sufficient. That meditation is not at all for relaxing. There are other possibilities. Just take a good nap or something, or lie in the sun or wherever. These are also very relaxing. And even walking, taking a walk through the forest, near stream, or it is generally, these are methods of calming down one's mind, calming down one's energy tensions and so on. Such methods are recommended. But practice of meditation, bhavana, is not at all for relaxing, but it's for real meditation is not at all relaxation, but is a working, is a very intensive and hard work. There's no time to be relaxed. If one relaxes, we cannot meditate at all. And one has to be particularly attentive, particularly determined, and particularly also awake, clear, energetic, and also with a lot of determination, one has to engage in that hard work. It is a struggle, more of a struggle, and more of an inner fight than peace and harmony. So sometimes it happens, even good meditators may follow a way in which one, in the actual practice of meditation, one does nothing, then keeping one's mind absolutely blank and stop all kinds of activities in the mind, all thoughts in the mind, and keep one's mind, try one's best to keep it kind of blank with no activity whatsoever. And there are many who actually misunderstand that being important meditation, and that's a little bit awkward because first it happens sometimes among the meditators who first do the preparations of the meditation, going through really hard practices, doing so many hundreds and thousands of prostration, hundreds and thousands of so many good practices, whatever, maybe taking refuge and this and that, and offering a lot of practice of 100,000 prostration, 100,000 of offerings, 100,000 mandala offerings, and this and that, recitation of purification mantras and so on. And when it comes to actual meditation, then everything, there is nothing else in a blank mind. And this becomes very awkward. But sometimes such kind of practice also happens, which is, according to the enlightened masters, is not really the best way to meditate. Then one does something very much more meritorious and much more purifying and much more practice of Dhamma is accomplished as a preparation. And when it comes to the actual, now preparation is done, and now I'm in the actual practice of meditation, that what one does is sits there doing nothing and only keeping the mind blank. And that's a little bit awkward situation. As it is also said in the scripture, the ways which are gone astray are infinite. In the best cases, this kind of misunderstandings about practice of meditation does occur through misunderstanding the meaning of the emptiness, which I mentioned before. And of course, emptiness being a very important subject in Buddhism and also for the meditation. And so, through misunderstanding the meaning of that emptiness, so they come to a conclusion. Now, the most important meditation is to keep one's mind absolutely blank. And that way, thinking that way, through keeping one's mind blank, one realizes emptiness. Not at all. The emptiness is the most important reality, which only one can, in which one has to open one's eyes, and then one really open your mind, open your eyes. You don't have to really open your eyes, but anyway, just an example. And then see what the reality is. This can never be seen through closing your eyes. You cannot see closing the mind and eyes of your mind and then hope to see the reality. Not possible. One has to wide open. If possible, many eyes open. This emptiness, real meaning is not at all. It means that state of mind which is free from all thoughts, all ideas. Such an empty state of mind is not the meaning of this emptiness, what Buddha has taught in the Prajnaparamita Sutta. So this empty is something to be empty of. So one thinks the empty means the empty of thoughts. Mind being empty of thoughts. First there are many thoughts and now all thoughts are disappeared. So this emptiness of thought is not the meaning of the emptiness that shunyata. And also like emptiness of material things, like space is empty because it is free from all the obstructing material objects. That is also empty. So this also has nothing to do with the actual emptiness which one should meditate upon. So therefore there are many meanings of emptiness. So this emptiness, when we talk about the ultimate reality, nature of all phenomena, it's not at all like the mind being emptiness of empty of thoughts, or object being empty of some material, or mind, for example, having no shape, no color, no any material properties. Surely that's true. The mind doesn't have this kind of material properties. But having understood that, is only understood what is like the texture of the mind, but it has not, through that one has not understood, and not at all understood actually the ultimate reality, the emptiness. So therefore this emptiness does not refer to any this kind of emptiness, like the mind being empty of conceptions or thoughts and ideas. This can also, such things can, one can, there are such meditation, but that is not meditation of emptiness. And also like mind being completely empty of form, color, shape, weight, etc., material properties. There are such meditations too, but it is not a meditation of the emptiness. So because all these things, the emptiness is just one object, one phenomena, one conventional phenomena being empty of another conventional phenomena. There's only that kind of emptiness. But in the real emptiness is not at all like that. But when it's a real and everything being empty of, not of something else, but of one's own self-nature. So that's totally different. And that one will not understand immediately. One cannot even imagine it correctly unless one really understood exactly how each and every phenomena are empty of one's own self-nature, not like one phenomena being empty of, like the cup being empty of water, that's also the same, or mind being empty of thoughts, or mind being empty of shape and color. All these, or saying the cup is empty of water, is the same. It is one phenomena being empty of another conventional phenomena. That's not the meaning of the emptiness. The emptiness has a very deep meaning, that is the everything being empty of one's own self-nature. And that one has to really understand correctly. And then once one has really understood how that emptiness is, and then one can meditate on that. However, so I'm just mentioning it because there are these kind of lots of, first of all there are a whole lot of things which are called meditation, which is even not even suitable to be referred to as a meditation, because it's just simply relaxation like that. And there are also among the meditators who are doing some kind of meditation, there are still many who are misunderstanding such meanings of emptiness and so on. That way they may also practice something which is not really accurate. So there are a lot of, practice of meditation is not simple. There are a lot of pitfalls.